He walked among the stars and found no heaven there. The stars stretched endlessly before him, cold, distant, and quiet. Commander Elias Raan drifted through the void, the hum of his oxygen suit the only sound that reminded him he was still alive. Beyond the cracked window of the shuttle Odyssey, there was no dawn, no horizon, no sound of wind or waves. Only the silent glow of eternity. He had left Earth 20 years ago, or perhaps it was longer. Time had folded and stretched like starlight itself. He wasn't sure anymore. The mission had been called Project Eden, humanity's desperate attempt to find a new home among the stars, a heaven they could build after destroying the old one. But one by one, his crewmates had vanished, swallowed by the same darkness they came to explore. Now Elias was the last. He floated above the ruins of what had once been a beautiful ship. Panels hung loose, wires sparked faintly in the blackness. The ship's artificial voice, Ariel, still whispered softly through the static, trying to keep him sane. "Commander Raan," the voice said. "Your vitals are stable, but oxygen is at 23%. He smiled faintly beneath his cracked helmet. "That's more than I deserve." "You are nearing the system labeled Epsilon 4, Ariel continued. "Scans detect planetary remains. Would you like to initiate descent?" He hesitated. For a moment, he wanted to say no, to just drift, to let the stars take him wherever they wished. But the faint pull of curiosity, the same spark that had carried him beyond every fear, made him nod. "Do it," he said. "Take me down." As the engines flickered back to life, Elias felt the vibration of movement. The ship, though wounded, obeyed. Through the viewport, a dead planet emerged from the dark, pale, cratered, and surrounded by rings of dust that shimmered like ghostly halos. It was once a world, maybe one with oceans, clouds, and life. But now it was only memory. He descended slowly. The hull burned faintly as it entered what little atmosphere remained. The surface was silent, bathed in silver light from a distant sun. He landed near a ridge of crystal mountains that glowed faintly like frozen fire. Elias stepped out. His boots sank into soft, dust-like ash. The stars above looked close enough to touch, an endless ceiling of cold fire. He walked forward, each step echoing faintly in the emptiness. His shadows stretched across the barren plain. "This is Epsilon 4, Ariel's voice murmured through his headset. "No detectable life. No atmosphere suitable for human habitation." Elias gazed up at the sky. "Then heaven isn't here either." He walked for hours, or perhaps days. Time had no meaning in a world without a sun. He found ruins half buried in the ash, arches of stone, metallic remnants of structures that weren't built by human hands. They curved in impossible angles, shining faintly with strange energy. Someone or something had been here before. "Ariel," he whispered, brushing the dust from a glowing symbol on the surface. "Do you recognize this language?" "Negative. It predates any known human or artificial record." Elias stared at it longer, tracing the curves with his glove. It was beautiful, simple, almost childlike. Yet something in it made him shiver. He moved deeper into the ruins, guided by the faint pulse of light. The air around him shimmered, and for a moment, he thought he heard something, not through his ears, but through the very air itself. A voice, distant and melodic. "Elias." He froze. "Ariel, did you hear that?" "Negative," the AI replied. Audio input registers no external sound. But he had heard it. It was soft and warm, a voice he hadn't heard in decades. His wife, Lyra. "You promised you'd come back." He turned sharply, scanning the empty ruins. There was no one there, only the stars, burning silently above. He took a deep breath, though it came shaky and uneven. "Lyra," he whispered, "if you're a ghost, then haunt me." No answer, only the slow crackle of static in his ear. He moved on, heart heavy, steps slower now. The light grew stronger the deeper he went until he reached what looked like a great crystalline chamber. The walls shimmered like frozen lightning, and in the center stood a sphere, bright, pulsing, alive. It floated a few feet above the ground, surrounded by symbols that shifted like constellations. "What is that?" Elias breathed. "Unknown," Ariel said softly. "But its energy signature matches that of an artificial star." He reached out a trembling hand. The light rippled, as if sensing him. His visor darkened to shield his eyes. Then, in a flash, everything vanished. The ruins, the stars, the dust, all dissolved into white. He stood in a field of light, endless, soft, and alive. And in front of him stood a woman. She looked exactly as he remembered her, eyes like dawn, hair like flame. Lyra smiled faintly, the same way she had when he left her on Earth all those years ago. "You finally found it," she said. Her voice was a melody he thought he'd never hear again. "Found what?" he whispered. "Heaven." She shook her head gently.
No.
"Just the memory of one." He reached toward her, but his hand passed through her like mist. The illusion trembled. "You died," he said softly, tears welling. "The message said the fires reached the city before." "I know," she interrupted. "And still, you came here. Still searching for heaven." He looked around. "Is this real?" "It's what remains," she said. "Of me. Of you. Of everything we thought we could save." Then the light flickered, and she was gone. Elias fell to his knees. The white dissolved, and he was back among the ruins. The sphere had dimmed. Only faint whispers remained. He felt it then, the truth pressing against his mind like a tide. Whatever heaven he'd hoped to find wasn't a place among the stars. It had been lost long ago, burned away with the world he'd left behind. Ariel's voice cut through the silence. "Commander Raan, your oxygen is at 13%. He looked up at the endless sky, and for the first time, it looked empty. Elias drifted back to the Odyssey, the ruined vessel groaning under its own weight. The stars outside burned silently, indifferent to his despair. He couldn't leave Epsilon 4 behind. Something about it whispered to him, beckoning him onward. The ship's engines hummed weakly, a tired heartbeat in the vastness of the void. He climbed into the cockpit and activated the navigational array. Charts flickered across the screen, ancient star maps projecting paths to distant systems no human had reached. One system stood out, a dark cluster of stars, unnamed and almost forgotten, drifting at the edge of known space. "Take me there," he said to Ariel. The journey began, slow and lonely. Days bled into nights, though night had no meaning here. He floated among the stars, the void pressing against the hull like a silent witness. Sometimes, he imagined the stars were eyes, staring at him with questions he couldn't answer. Sleep became impossible. Even when he closed his eyes, visions came. Memories of Earth, Lyra's smile, the fire that had taken everything. But amid the memories was a strange clarity. He realized he wasn't just searching for a place called heaven. He was searching for the feeling of home, for the warmth he had left behind in the ashes of a dying world. The dark cluster of stars finally appeared on the viewport. They were unlike anything he had seen, twisted constellations of black and violet, burning faintly with strange energy. Planets hovered nearby, each with a light of its own, but none had life. None had warmth. Elias descended toward the largest of these planets. Its surface was a swirling mix of shadow and faintly glowing rivers of energy, like veins running beneath its skin. When he stepped onto it, the ground hummed beneath his boots. The air was thin but breathable thanks to the ship's filtration systems. Ariel's voice was quiet. "Commander, energy readings are unusual. They do not match any known form of life or matter." Elias nodded, ignoring her. He felt it in his bones. This place was alive, but alive in a way that did not resemble the Earth he had lost. He walked for hours, the landscape shifting under his gaze. Mountains of dark crystal rose from the ground, rivers of liquid light flowed in impossible patterns, and the sky above was alive with stars moving slowly, almost sentiently. And then he saw them. Figures in the distance, tall and slender, glowing faintly like embers in the dark. They moved silently, watching him. "Who's there?" he called. No answer. As he approached, one stepped forward. Its face, if it could be called that, shimmered with 1,000 colors. It looked at him, not with eyes, but with understanding. "You seek heaven," it said, though its voice was not heard but felt, resonating in his mind. I thought I would find it here," Elias admitted. "A place where the pain is gone, where the world isn't broken." The figure shifted closer, the light from its body bathing him. "Heaven is not a place, human. Not a location you can reach among the stars. You search in the wrong ways. You walk the void, but the void is not empty. It is only a mirror of what you carry inside." Elias sank to his knees. The words were like a knife and a bomb at the same time. "Then it's all been for nothing," he whispered. "Nothing is lost," the figure said. "But what you carry is hope. You must look for it within, not above. The stars are endless, yes, but they cannot hold the heaven you seek. Only you can." For the first time, he felt the crushing weight of truth. The journey he had embarked on, the missions, the years of isolation, the search across systems, had been a search for something he already carried within him. Love, memory, hope. The human heart was both fragile and infinite. And no star, no planet, no distant galaxy could ever replace it. He rose slowly. "Then what am I to do?" he asked. The figure reached out, or, at least Elias thought it did. Energy flowed into him, filling him with warmth he had not felt since Lyra's smile. "Carry it forward," it said. "Even in the void, even in silence. Make your heaven where you can. And remember, you are never truly alone among the stars." The figure receded, dissolving into the sky, leaving Elias alone once more. But he no longer felt the emptiness. He had no illusions now, no expectations of finding paradise among the stars. Yet the journey had purpose: to survive, to endure, to witness, and to carry the light he had found within. He returned to the Odyssey and set a new course. He would continue exploring, yes, but not for a heaven that did not exist. He would walk among the stars as a witness, a keeper of memories, a bearer of the quiet hope that survived even the death of worlds. As the ship left the dark cluster behind, the stars seemed to shine differently. Not brighter, not closer, but somehow warmer. He smiled faintly. Perhaps heaven was not out there, among the stars. Perhaps it was here, in the will to endure, in the memories he carried, in the hope he refused to let die. And so, he walked on among the stars, alone yet unbroken, a man who had found not heaven, but something far more human, the courage to keep going. The Odyssey glided silently through the cosmic ocean, its hull scarred by decades of travel. Elias had left the dark cluster behind, leaving behind the strange, sentient planet and the being who had spoken to him. But the universe seemed to stretch on forever, vast, indifferent, and hauntingly beautiful. Ariel's voice broke the silence. "Commander, we're approaching a system previously uncharted. Energy readings suggest remnants of multiple civilizations. Unknown life signatures present, though faint." Elias leaned forward. "Show me." The viewport displayed a scene both mesmerizing and tragic. Planets hung in orbit around a dim sun, their surfaces scarred with craters and ruins. Structures jutted from the ground like broken teeth, some metallic, some crystalline. Cities lay abandoned, frozen in time, or perhaps erased slowly by the weight of years. He set the Odyssey down on a plateau overlooking the ruins. The silence was absolute. No wind, no birds, no hum of life. Only the stars, distant and indifferent. Elias stepped out, his boots crunching on dust that felt older than the stars themselves. He moved through the streets of a city that had once thrived. Skyscrapers twisted in impossible forms, their spires shattered. Bridges floated midair, broken and incomplete. It was as though time itself had given up on this place. He reached a building that looked like a library. Inside, he found holographic archives flickering faintly, the remains of a civilization's knowledge. He activated one, and a projection rose, images of beings walking, working, laughing. a language unknown yet beautiful. He saw their art, their music in light patterns, their hopes encoded in data streams. He whispered, almost reverently, they lived. They dreamed. And now, nothing remains. A soft vibration ran through the ground. He looked up to see thousands of tiny lights rising from the ruins. They hovered, danced, and moved with purpose. Each light seemed to carry a fragment of memory, a shard of consciousness. They left behind echoes, Ariel said. Remnants of life. Data consciousness encoded in light. They all wanted to be remembered. Elias felt a lump in his throat. He reached out. The lights swirled around him, brushing against his visor, whispering words he could not understand. But he felt their meaning. Hope, love, fear, curiosity. All the things that made them alive had not vanished. He understood then the universe itself did not erase memory. It preserved fragments, tiny sparks of consciousness floating like stars, waiting for someone to notice. Hours passed, though he could not measure them. He wandered through the ruins, feeling the presence of these lost civilizations. He spoke aloud, though no one could hear. I see you. I remember you. You are not gone. Not completely. Ariel's voice was quiet. Commander, oxygen is at 30%. We should return to the ship. He nodded, though he did not move immediately. He turned to the city one last time, letting the lights wash over him. Then he climbed back into the Odyssey, feeling the weight of both sorrow and wonder. The next systems passed in silence. Elias began to notice a pattern, civilizations rising and falling, each leaving behind whispers, echoes, and memories. The universe seemed empty, yes, but it was full of traces, of life that had been, of dreams that had once touched the stars. One night, or what passed for night, he sat in the cockpit, staring at a nebulous swirling violet and gold. He thought of Earth, of Lyra, of the promise of heaven he had once believed waited for him among the stars. He realized something. Heaven had never been a place. It had never been a planet or a shining city. It had been memory, connection, and the courage to face the void without despair. The beings he had seen, the lights that danced among ruins, were proof of something humanity often forgot. Nothing truly ends. It changes, it persists in forms unexpected, and it waits for those willing to witness it. The thought brought both relief and grief. He had searched for heaven and found none. Yet, paradoxically, he had found something even more powerful, the enduring spirit of life itself, scattered across time and space. He began to record everything, documenting the lost civilizations, the echoes, and the whispers. His logs would become a map, a guide for whoever might come after. Perhaps humanity, or something else. Even as he drifted further into the void, Elias felt a strange peace. The stars were cold, indifferent, and unyielding, yet in their light, he had glimpsed eternity, memory, and hope. And he understood that though he might never find a paradise in the universe, he could carry it within himself. Not as a place, but as a force. He set the Odyssey's course for the edge of known space, toward the next uncharted system. He did not know what he would find, and he no longer feared it. The universe was vast, yes, but he was alive and he was watching, and that was enough. And in the distance, beyond even the reach of his sensors, he thought he saw a light. Not a star, not a planet, but something alive, calling him onward. He floated toward it. The Odyssey drifted through an uncharted stretch of the cosmos, far beyond the familiar constellations. Stars shimmered like scattered gems across black velvet, some dying, some being born, all indifferent to his small, fragile vessel. Elias had been traveling for months, or years, though time had little meaning here. He had seen echoes of civilizations, witnessed planets frozen in decay, and touched the memory of life that had long since vanished. But now, a deeper void awaited him, a place where light itself seemed hesitant to exist. Ariel's voice was soft, almost cautious. Commander, sensors are detecting a massive energy anomaly. It defies all known physics. The system contains what appears to be a collapsed star, yet something alive exists within its gravity well. Elias's pulse quickened. "Set a course," he said. "I need to see it." The Odyssey entered the anomaly. Gravity tugged at the ship with a slow, insistent pull. Time felt elastic, stretching and compressing in impossible ways. The collapsed star dominated the system, a blackened orb surrounded by strange auroras of violet and gold. Within the shadows, something stirred. He activated the external scanners. Ariel's voice trembled slightly. "Commander, I cannot classify it. It seems conscious, massive, intelligent, aware of us." Elias floated to the viewport, staring into the black heart of the star. He felt a presence, immense, incomprehensible, and yet intimate. It was as if the universe itself had gathered into a single point, observing him. "You've come," a voice resonated, not in his ears, but within his mind. Deep, infinite, echoing with the weight of galaxies. "You seek what cannot be found." "I seek understanding," Elias replied. "I've walked among the stars. I've seen civilizations die, worlds vanish, and yet I still hope for meaning. Is there none?" The voice was both patient and infinite. "Meaning is not given human. It is forged. You have seen what others have left behind. You have witnessed memory, hope, and the echoes of life. That is the truth of existence. It does not promise heaven. It does not offer paradise. It offers persistence. It offers witness. It offers the chance to endure." Elias felt the enormity of the truth pressing down. All his dreams of discovering a perfect world, of finding a place untouched by suffering, had been illusions. Heaven, as he had imagined it, did not exist. "Then what is left for me?" he whispered. "Carry it," the presence said. "Carry what is precious. Remember, create, endure. In doing so, you become part of the universe's story. You are not insignificant. You are necessary. Even in the void, you are alive." Tears welled in Elias's eyes. The stars around him burned cold, yet inside him, a warmth spread, fragile, human, enduring. He understood now. Heaven was never a place among the stars. It was the courage to face the void, the strength to hold onto memory and hope, and the willingness to continue walking even when all seemed lost. He activated the ship's recording systems, documenting everything. The collapsed star pulsed around him, as if acknowledging his understanding. He drifted in silence, letting the enormity of the universe sink into his bones. Then he looked at the distance. Faint glimmers moving against the black, small sparks of life, perhaps other travelers, other survivors, echoes of civilizations still clinging to existence. He felt a strange serenity. The universe was vast, indifferent, terrifying, yet magnificent beyond comprehension. And in its silence, he had discovered a truth more profound than paradise, the perseverance of life, the memory of love, and the courage to witness it all. Elias plotted a new course. He would continue traveling, exploring, recording. He would walk among the stars, not for heaven, not for glory, not for reward, but because life itself demanded it. Because to endure, to witness, and to remember was the only heaven he would ever know. And so, the Odyssey moved forward into the infinite black, a lone vessel carrying the weight of humanity's memory, the light of countless stars, and the fragile, unbreakable hope of one man who had finally understood. Elias looked out into the void and whispered, "I have found no heaven, but I have found purpose." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, cold yet welcoming, indifferent yet magnificent. He walked among them, and for the first time, he felt whole. Elias drifted through the void, the Odyssey gliding silently among stars that had seen the birth and death of countless worlds. The collapsed star he had encountered still lingered in his sensors, a reminder of the infinite, incomprehensible forces of the universe. Yet he no longer feared it. He had learned that the universe was not meant to be tamed or conquered, only witnessed. He reviewed the logs he had recorded, the memories of civilizations long gone, echoes preserved in light, and fragments of consciousness that had survived the decay of planets. Each one told a story of life, struggle, hope, and love. Each was proof that even in death, there was persistence. For hours, or perhaps days, he simply watched. The stars whispered in silence, their glow a quiet hymn to everything that had ever lived. He realized that the universe itself was a library, containing the stories of existence in ways humanity had barely begun to understand. Elias thought of Lyra, of Earth, of everything he had lost. He felt their presence not as pain, but as strength. The memory of love, the courage to endure, and the simple act of witnessing became his own form of heaven. He understood now. Heaven was not a place to reach, but a choice to carry, even in the coldest void. He navigated the Odyssey to a small, faintly glowing planet on the edge of the system. Its surface was scarred but alive, with tiny pockets of energy that suggested life might still exist, struggling quietly. He landed and stepped onto the surface, boots sinking into a soft, glowing ash. He walked through the ruins, listening to the whispers of the planet itself. Ariel's voice was calm. "Commander, readings suggest primitive life may be possible here. Survival likelihood is low without intervention." Elias looked up at the stars, vast and distant. "Then let them have a chance," he said. "Even if it's small, even if it's fragile." He began to record, leaving messages, guidance, and observations. Perhaps one day, someone would find his logs, or the spark of life on this planet would grow into something more. Perhaps humanity itself, or another, would walk among these stars and remember. And in that act, small and fleeting against the scale of the cosmos, Elias felt the weight of eternity and the triumph of perseverance. He had found no heaven among the stars, yet he had discovered the truest essence of life: the courage to continue, the determination to witness, and the hope to carry memory forward. The Odyssey lifted once more, gliding into the infinite black. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent yet magnificent, bearing witness to all that had been and all that would be. Elias smiled faintly. He knew he would never find paradise, and yet he had found something far greater: purpose, memory, and the quiet beauty of endurance. He walked among the stars, alone but unbroken, a man who carried humanity's legacy in his heart. The whispers of lost civilizations echoed faintly in the void, and for the first time, he felt truly at peace. No heaven awaited him, but he had learned to make one within himself, and in doing so, he became part of the universe's story. Elias looked out at the distant lights, and in the silence of the cosmos, he whispered, "I have walked among the stars. I have seen all that was lost, and though heaven does not exist, I will continue. I will witness. I will endure." The Odyssey sailed onward, through constellations old and new, carrying the fragile yet unyielding spark of life. And in the endless night, amidst dying stars and newborn worlds, humanity's story endured, a quiet, radiant testament that even in the void, hope could survive.